Have you ever wondered why some truths about women are never openly discussed? Why certain behaviors and patterns are hidden behind layers of distraction while men are left in the dark? Let me ask you, do you think women truly want men to understand how they think? Or do they prefer to keep some of that power to themselves? Drop your answer in the comments because this is the kind of question that can change how you see relationships forever. The reality is there are parts of female psychology that many women would rather you not know. Not because they're evil, but because knowledge is power. A man who understands these hidden truths becomes harder to manipulate, harder to deceive, and far more attractive. That's why videos like this matter. Not to attack women, but to equip men with the tools to see clearly. In this video, we're going to uncover some of those forbidden insights, what women won't say out loud but reveal through actions, habits, and choices. These lessons will give you the clarity to protect yourself, improve your relationships, and carry yourself with strength. By the end, you'll see why awareness is one of the most powerful tools a man can have. And if you make it to the very end, write hidden truth in the comments. That way, I'll know you're one of the men willing to face reality instead of living in illusions. One of the strongest psychological triggers in attraction is indifference. Women may never openly admit this, but they often feel a stronger pull toward men who are not overly eager to please them. Female psychology shows that when a man's world doesn't revolve around her, she instinctively respects him more. This isn't about being cold or heartless, it's about showing that your value comes from within, not from her approval. Psychologists call this the scarcity principle. When something is abundant and easily available, people take it for granted. When it's scarce, it becomes valuable. The same dynamic applies in relationships. If you are always available, answering instantly, bending over backward for her every request, she subconsciously sees you as common. But if you maintain your independence, your goals, and your boundaries, she starts to see you as someone rare, someone worth chasing. Consider a real-life example. Two men pursue the same woman. One constantly texts, checks in, and offers to help with everything. The other responds calmly, doesn't rush to please, and stays focused on his own life. Which one does she respect more? Most of the time, it's the second. Why? Because his indifference communicates that his world doesn't collapse without her attention. That strength creates curiosity and respect. Machiavelli observed that power often belongs to those who seem less needy. He wrote that rulers who are desperate to be loved quickly lose control, while those who stand firm command respect. In relationships, the same principle applies. A man who needs constant validation becomes weak in her eyes, while the one who holds his ground, even if it means risking her approval, remains in control. From a psychological perspective, indifference also communicates self-sufficiency. It shows that you can enjoy her presence but don't depend on it for happiness. This balance is attractive because it signals emotional stability. Women may not say it outright, but they respect the man who doesn't crumble without them. It's important to note, indifference doesn't mean neglect or disrespect. It means valuing yourself enough not to chase desperately. You give attention, but on your terms. You care, but you never beg. That balance creates a dynamic where she invests more, instead of you carrying the entire weight of the relationship. So here's the reflection. Do your actions show that you value yourself first, or do you give away your power by acting desperate? Share your thoughts in the comments. You might realize that the secret to attraction is not overgiving, but mastering calm indifference. Many men make the mistake of taking a woman's words at face value. When she says, "I'm just not ready," you're such a nice guy. It might sound harmless, even flattering. But beneath these nice words often lies a truth she doesn't want to state directly. Female psychology teaches us that women often communicate indirectly, softening their message to avoid confrontation. What seems like kindness can sometimes be a hidden rejection. Psychologists call this softened communication. Instead of being blunt, women often phrase things in a way that spares feelings. For example, when she says, "I don't want a relationship right now," it may really mean, "I don't want a relationship with you." The words are polite, but the message is firm. Men who miss this translation end up waiting, hoping, or investing in a situation that will never change. Consider a real-life scenario. A man pursues a woman for months. She keeps telling him, "You're such a good friend," and he convinces himself that patience will eventually change her mind. But her words were never an invitation. They were a boundary. Instead of listening, he wastes time and energy chasing a future she never intended to give. Machiavelli once said that people rarely say what they truly think. Instead, they say what benefits them. Applied here, a woman might use nice words not to deceive but to maintain comfort. She doesn't want to hurt feelings, so she phrases rejection softly. But this also means she's protecting herself, not you. A man must learn to read the meaning, not just the surface. From a psychological perspective, these soft rejections are not inherently malicious. They are a social strategy. But the damage comes when men ignore the hidden message. Every "you're too good for me" or "let's just see where this goes" should be measured not by its words, but by her actions. If her behavior shows disinterest, the truth is already in front of you. This is why women don't want men fully aware of these hidden truths. Because once you see through the soft words, you stop wasting time, stop being manipulated, and start carrying yourself with confidence. And confidence, ironically, is what women find most attractive. So here's the reflection. Have you ever ignored the hidden meaning behind nice words only to regret it later? Share your story in the comments. You might help another man see through the politeness and recognize the truth sooner. One of the most confusing behaviors men notice in women is the test. She challenges you, questions you, or creates small obstacles just to see how you'll react. Female psychology calls this congruence testing, checking if your words, actions, and emotions are consistent. But here's the secret. Most women will never admit they're testing you. Why? Because if men understood the pattern, the test would lose its effect. Psychologists explain that testing often comes from a place of seeking security. A woman wants to know if you are truly confident, stable, and reliable, or if you're just pretending. For example, she might say something teasing or slightly disrespectful, not because she hates you, but because she wants to see if you crumble under pressure or hold your ground calmly. Your reaction tells her more about you than your words ever could. Consider a real-life scenario. You're out with her and she makes a sarcastic comment like, "Wow, you really think you're important, huh?" An insecure man will get defensive. "What do you mean? Of course I'm important." A confident man, on the other hand, laughs it off or responds playfully, showing that his self-worth doesn't depend on her approval. By staying calm, he passes the test, without even calling it one. Machiavelli wrote that rulers constantly test their allies not out of cruelty, but to measure loyalty and strength. Women, consciously or not, do the same in relationships. They want to know if you're stable when challenged, or if you collapse when things get difficult. If you fail these small tests, she assumes you'll also fail in bigger moments. From a psychological standpoint, these tests also maintain polarity and attraction. A woman doesn't want to lead the relationship. She wants to feel that you are grounded enough to lead. If you fold under minor pressure, she loses that sense of security and attraction fades. Passing the test isn't about dominance. It's about composure. It's important to note that testing can become unhealthy if it turns into manipulation. A mature woman tests in small, harmless ways. An immature woman uses it as a tool for control. That's why you must not only pass the test, but also recognize whether the testing is rooted in genuine trust building or toxic behavior. So here's the reflection. When a woman challenges you, do you see it as an attack or as an opportunity to show your strength? Share your thoughts in the comments. You might help another man reframe these moments and respond with calm confidence. Attention is one of the most powerful currencies in relationships. Women may never openly say it, but the way you give or withhold your attention dramatically shapes how they feel about you. Female psychology shows us that attention functions like a mirror. It reflects value. When you direct all of your focus on a woman too quickly, you signal that she has already won without effort. But when your attention is measured and balanced, she feels both respected and challenged. Psychologists describe this as variable reinforcement. Human beings value what is not always guaranteed. If you pour endless attention into someone regardless of their effort, it loses impact. But if your attention comes selectively, given when it's deserved, withheld when it's not, it carries weight. The same compliment from a man who doesn't flatter often is far more meaningful than a dozen empty praises from someone desperate to impress. Consider a real-life example. Two men compliment a woman. One showers her with constant flattery. "You're beautiful. You're amazing. You're perfect." She hears it so often that it feels routine. The other waits until the right moment, looks her in the eye and says simply, "You look stunning tonight." The second compliment lingers because it was rare, authentic, and connected to genuine attention. Machiavelli wrote that a wise ruler distributes rewards sparingly so that each one feels valuable. Too much generosity, he warned, weakens its power. Applied to relationships, attention works the same way. When you give it indiscriminately, it loses its influence. When you are thoughtful about where and when you give it, it becomes priceless. From a psychological perspective, attention also builds or destroys respect. If a woman notices that you give your attention away to anyone, through constant scrolling, flirting, or chasing, it lowers your value. But if your attention feels exclusive and intentional, she sees it as a privilege, not a right. That perception strengthens attraction. This doesn't mean playing games or withholding affection to manipulate. It means living a life with purpose, where your attention is guided by values, not desperation. When your attention is rare and authentic, it draws her in naturally, because deep down people crave what feels earned. So here's the reflection. Does your attention feel like a gift, or has it become so common that it has lost its value? Share your answer in the comments, because the way you direct your focus may be the difference between being forgettable and unforgettable. Not every truth is spoken out loud. In fact, some of the most important signals come through silence, small gestures, habits, or subtle behaviors. Female psychology shows us that women often communicate indirectly, especially when it comes to attraction or disinterest. The problem is, many men ignore these signals either because they're too focused on words or because they don't want to face reality. Psychologists call this nonverbal communication. A woman's body language often reveals more than her speech. For example, crossed arms, avoiding eye contact, or leaning away while you speak may all be signs of disinterest. Yet she may still say, "I'm just tired," to soften the truth. On the other hand, lingering eye contact, leaning closer, or subtle mirroring of your movements often signal attraction, even if she never says it outright. Consider a practical example. Two men are on dates. One ignores the fact that she checks her phone constantly, never asks questions, and avoids touch. He convinces himself she's just distracted. The other notices these cues, accepts that she isn't invested, and walks away with dignity. Guess which man saves himself from wasted time? The one who pays attention to the signals beyond words. Machiavelli warned that rulers who ignore subtle signs of betrayal often fall because the truth is always present. It's just not always spoken. The same applies here. A wise man doesn't rely solely on what is said. He studies what is shown. If her actions and words don't align, believe the actions. They rarely lie. From a psychological perspective, women often prefer to send signals instead of being direct, because it allows them to avoid confrontation. This is not always manipulation, it's simply a communication style. But the danger arises when men refuse to acknowledge those signals, hoping words will eventually align with their desires. That denial leads to heartbreak. Learning to read silent signals doesn't just protect you, it also makes you more attractive. A man who notices small details shows presence, awareness, and emotional intelligence. These qualities make women feel understood in ways most men cannot provide. That in itself creates respect and interest. So here's the reflection. Do you focus only on what women say, or do you also pay attention to what they show? Share your thoughts in the comments. You might realize that the truth you've been searching for was in the signals all along. The truth is simple. Women often communicate in ways most men overlook, through nice words, subtle tests, or silent signals. They reveal far more than they admit openly. Female psychology teaches us that if you only listen to what is said, you'll miss the reality of what is shown. That's why awareness isn't just power, it's protection. When you learn to see through the surface, you stop wasting time, stop falling for manipulation, and start carrying yourself with the strength women quietly respect. Attraction is not about chasing harder, it's about understanding deeper. And once you master that, you'll realize why so many truths are kept hidden. If you stayed until the end, write hidden truth in the comments. That way, I'll know you're one of the men ready to face reality instead of living in illusions.